Our guest is Ambassador Francisco Campbell from the Republic of Nicaragua. Ambassador Campbell formerly served as ambassador from Nicaragua to Zimbabwe and was a member of the Central American Parliament. Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us today. What's happening in Nicaragua?
Nicaragua is definitely on a roll, I would say. Our security situation is excellent. Our economy is doing well. We are involved in a number of very interesting and innovative programs. And we are very confident that we have finally brought together all the necessary elements that make us feel sure that we are now on the path towards development.
The whole Central America area, those countries have had a tough go, haven't they?
Very, very difficult. In the 80s, for example, we were involved in wars. But I believe that we finally turned the corner, and now we are on a new track. The Central American integration system is working. The various Central American countries have found ways to begin to cooperate among ourselves in dealing with some of the major threats. We believe that the most serious threat to the region right now is drug trafficking and organized crime. And the Central American countries, through the Central American regional security strategy, have begun to take steps to deal with that effectively. We feel that drug trafficking and organized crime is a hemispheric threat. And that means we have to work together, not only among the Central American countries, but also the United States has to become more involved. The countries in South America where the drugs are produced, they have to become more involved. So it has to be a regional, comprehensive effort in dealing with what is a regional threat.
When you talk about South America getting involved with Central America, with the United States, it is amazing that the #1 customer for the drugs is America, huh?
That's true, and we in Central America feel that it's very important that the United States takes steps to reduce the demands for drug, that it takes steps to deal more effectively with drug trafficking within the United States, that it become more effective in dealing with money laundering and also the illegal sales of firearms. But we in Central America, we are really not consuming countries. Our territory is being used for the trafficking of drugs. And so our role in this effort is to try to make sure that our territory is not used for drug trafficking. That in the case of the countries in the South, where the drugs is produced, they have to take steps to find ways of reducing production, but also dealing with trafficking within their territory.
Do you have an addiction problem?
No, we do not in Nicaragua. Our police and various institutions have been doing a very, very good job at dealing with the issue of drugs in a comprehensive way. However, we do have to deal with any kind of manifestation of consumption. It is not significant, but it's a reality and we have to deal with it.
Would you say that poverty and unhappiness, which is go together, of course, is at the heart of people's needing to use drugs?
I am not sure, because where you have the greatest consumption of drugs is in the United States, and the level of the demand here cannot be assigned to frustration and poverty.
A lot of recreational use.
There has to be something else. In our countries, from the standpoint of our government, our strategy has been directed at dealing with the issue of poverty. For us, the most serious security threat has always been poverty. And so as we put together our strategy, we focus on dealing with the issues of poverty as a way of eliminating vulnerabilities that create space for the drug traffickers that they exploit to move their merchandise on up towards the United States, which is the market.
Hold on that note. I would tell you, folks at home, if you're just joining us, a fascinating conversation with Ambassador Francisco Campbell. He's ambassador from Nicaragua to the United States. So much to talk about. Sit tight. We'll be back on the other side. This is America and the World. This is America is brought to you by the National Education Association, the U.S.-China Education Trust, and the F.Y. Chang Foundation. The League of Arab States, representing 350 million people in 22 member countries. The Rotendaro Family Trust. The Embassy Series, uniting people through musical diplomacy, presenting international artists in diplomatic settings. And Ventana Productions, television facilities, editing, and distribution services. Mr. Ambassador, bordering countries, tell me about the borders of Nicaragua.
Well, to the north we have Honduras. To the south we have Costa Rica. And on the west is the Pacific Ocean. And on the east, the Caribbean Sea. And so we find ourselves in a privileged position to a certain extent. That's why everyone has always thought of Nicaragua as an ideal place to build a canal.
Well, I was just going to say that.
Sure.
In the old days, it was under consideration.
That's right.
But, so Panama comes along and the United States, and they build that, and now they got a second canal working.
Right.
But I read an article where some businessman, wealthy businessman from China, wants to promote another canal through Nicaragua.
That would be great.
Yeah, but that's billions and billions and billions of dollars.
But trade is going up by billions and billions of dollars as well. I was seeing a report the other day in which they said that by the year 2030, imports into the United States is going to increase fourfold, and export is going to increase sevenfold. You're going to need some big ships and some big containers,
ships, right?
to be able to carry all of that trade. And the Nicaragua Canal will be able to accommodate the EEZ post-Panamax vessels.
My word.
You know, the largest vessels that are, the largest vessel operating now, they can carry 9,000 containers.
Yes.
The EEZ post-Panamax will be able to carry 18,000 containers.
Mind-blowing.
And those vessels, those ships, cannot pass through even the expanded Panama Canal. They have to go around Cape Horn. And so it is very important that we have this new waterway in order to accommodate all of that.
So you really
trade.
think that it's a possibility down the road?
It's more than a possibility. It's very close. It's close to becoming a reality.
But you'd need money from all kinds of outside sources.
That's right. And the company that won the concession, that company is involved in bringing together the necessary financing that is going to be required. And right now they are involved in developing the feasibility study. A very important company, Environmental Resource Management, is involved in the environmental impact studies. And there's also technical feasibility studies underway, and we expect that the results, when they come out towards the end of next year, will say, yes, this project is feasible, and we'll move ahead with it.
Let me go in a couple of different directions, or one direction. Talk a little bit about the culture of Nicaragua. It goes back thousands and tens and hundreds of thousands of years.
We have we have a very, very rich culture. On the Pacific side, you have the mixture of European culture, namely the Spanish culture, mixing with the indigenous population of the area. Then on the Caribbean side, you have the Afro-descendant culture, also mixed with the British. And we have a very, very rich culture. Nicaragua probably has the richest cultural mix in all of Central America, because we are the only country in Central America that was colonized by two powers, the Spanish on the Pacific side of the country and the British on the Caribbean side. And that is why you will find on the Pacific side of the country, Spanish-speaking, Catholic, as what we call mestizo, whereas on the Caribbean side you have the native Miskito Indians, you have the native Mayagnas, you have the Ramas, then you have the Afro-descendant culture, you have the Garifonas, English is spoken, and you have a rich tropical rainforest as well as sun and beach on the Caribbean side. So we have a little bit of everything.
Population?
The population of Nicaragua is approximately 5.5 million people.
5.5. What do people do there? For work? What do they do for fun?
Well, Nicaragua we have a little bit of everything. Of course, you have people involved in fishery, you have people involved in mining, you have people involved in manufacturing.
It's agriculture is big.
Agriculture is great. We are an important producer of coffee, sugarcane. We are an important producer of gold.
Who are the big trading partners?
The big trading partner is the United States.
Is it right?
Yes, of course. The United States is our biggest trading partner, and also the United States is the country that has the greatest investment in Nicaragua.
Yeah. You've mentioned poor country. We talked a little bit about poverty. They've made some progress in water, in sanitation, infant mortality, and education.
That's correct.
But so much more needs to be done.
Oh, yes.
People living under $2 a day or $1 a day, and that's like half the population of the country, isn't it?
Yes. Nicaragua, we have tremendous challenges, and the government that came back into power in 2007 has established as its #1 priority. Everything we do in Nicaragua is directed at dealing with what we believe to be the historic threat to our country. And the historic threat to our country has been always poverty and marginalization, exclusion. These are all the elements that help to create instability. And instability undermines any possibility of progress. And so the government of Nicaragua that came back to power in 2007 made it a #1 priority to bring together all the forces in Nicaragua, the private sector, labor, as well as the government as facilitator, in order for the Nicaraguan people working together to assume that historic responsibility of fighting poverty in our country. If we succeed in the fight against poverty, then we will consider our effort to be a success.
Vulnerable also to weather, huh? Oh my Lord!
Yes.
Hurricanes, earthquakes.
On the Caribbean side, we have the threat of hurricanes. The last major hurricane that hit and created a lot of damage was in 1988 on the Caribbean side of the country. 1988, it was Hurricane Joanne. It destroyed Bluefields, it destroyed Rama, it destroyed Corn Island. And we are still recovering from the effect of Hurricane Joanne.
So there's always a vulnerability to weather?
Yeah, of course.
And then you mentioned...
then you have the 1972 earthquake, for example, that destroyed the city of Managua.
It's the capital city,
Yeah,
yes?
that's right. And if you visit Managua, you can still see the effects of that destruction.
Mr. Ambassador, dictatorships, civil wars, assassinations, occupations, revolution. What a tough go inside the country.
Well, yeah, we have had our share of.
Whoa.
We have had our share of.
Of course, as I was writing those things down, I was saying probably you could say some of that is for our own country as well. You know.
Well, that's true. That's
but
true.
I mean, not to the degree of which. Boy, what a tough go. But let's talk about the U.S. Nicaraguan relationship. What a history.
Very interesting.
Back in this was the one that I started on. So I'm going through my research, and I'm saying, in the middle of the 1800s, this American comes along by the name of William Walker, and he has a sham election, and he gets elected president.
Precisely. Yeah, that's true.
And
that's
then we're the United States is in and out, and then the Marines occupy for 20 years. Where do we stand today?
Well, the good news is that we apparently have turned the page. We have begun to work on the building of a new relationship between the United States and Nicaragua. When President Obama went to Port of Spain in 2009 for the Summit of the Americas, he said that he was interested in building a new relationship with Latin America based on respect and mutual interest. Nicaragua took him at his word, and we have been working in that direction. I like to say that we have succeeded in removing the smoky lens of ideological prejudice and began to focus our attention on the fundamentals of the relationship between the two countries. And what are these? The fundamental is security. Working together in areas of mutual interest. Security. The fight against drug trafficking and organized crime. Nicaragua has been able to work very, very closely with the various agencies of the United States government, including the Southern Command, in dealing with drug trafficking and organized crime. In fact, Nicaragua is recognized as the most effective country in Central America in the fight against drug trafficking. So when
we talk about security, we're not talking about terrorism. We're talking about...
That has to be included as well.
In there as well?
It has to be included. We have to work together very, very closely in all the various manifestations and all the various threats. And so we have been working together in dealing with all of these threats. Money laundering, drug trafficking, terrorism, you name it. We have been working together very closely.
How about the relationship? Well, let me put it this way. Is there any relationship between President Obama and President Ortega?
I'm the ambassador.
And we have an ambassador there.
You have an ambassador.
Ambassador Powers.
Ambassador Powers. And
so what do you both do? I mean, you look at President Ortega and you say he's tight with Bolivia, and he's tight with Venezuela, and he's tight with Iran, and he once had not so kind things to say about capitalism. But he's had some success, but there are some really... What's at the heart of the conflict? That's the question, I suppose. What's at the heart of the conflict?
At this moment, we don't have any conflict with the United States.
Does the United States have any conflict with Nicaragua?
I like to think not. And since we are working together very closely, I don't see why we should be talking about conflict when we are, in fact, able to move ahead on the issue of fundamental importance in the relationship between the two countries. The United States is our biggest trading partner.
Right. Mm-hmm.
The United States is the biggest investor in Nicaragua.
125 companies have some ties to the United States?
Precisely,
yeah?
Sure.
Amazing.
Nicaragua is the country in Central America that has performed the best on the CAFTA, the DR-CAFTA arrangement, the free trade agreement between Central America and the United States. So if we are able to work together on the issues of fundamental importance, then there is no need to be talking about a situation of conflict. We have to work together and continue to build confidence, and that will help us overcome the prejudices and the frustrations of the past. And so we are moving in a right direction, and I think that is what President Ortega wants, and I believe that that is what the United States government also wants with regard to Nicaragua.
When people are, and we know this anecdotally to be true, people at the State Department, people in the White House, people on the Hill, see this program, and they're listening to our conversation. Are they going to be shaking their heads up and this way, or are they going to be shaking their heads that way?
They are going to say that's exactly how Ambassador Campbell speaks in public and in private.
And will they sign off on the fact that progress is being made between the two countries?
They can't deny it. There's no way they can deny it, that the relationship between the United States and Nicaragua has been improving. We are continuing to build confidence. We are working in areas of mutual interest. And I believe we have become very successful partners in the area of commerce and trade and security.
So would you say that President Ortega's number one challenge, and that's a soft word, is poverty, right?
That is the Nicaragua fundamental challenge.
So if you would point to 2 or 3 of his successes, what would you say they would be?
I think the most important success of the President Ortega administration has been that ability to bring together the private sector in Nicaragua, labor, and government, and get everyone to come on board around a national vision for the country. How we can work together, because the biggest problem we have had in the past is our inability to buy into a shared vision as to where Nicaragua needs to go. And the president, in 2007, when he took office, one of the first things that he did was to call on the various sectors and tell them, listen, if we are to move ahead, if we are to be able to deal with the fundamental threat to Nicaragua's stability, we must find ways of working together around a shared vision of what we want for Nicaragua.
And United States, I should just put this on the table, although we only have a couple of minutes left, cut off some of the aid, that it was some of the assistance it was offering, right?
Yes.
They did.
Yes, and I believe that perhaps that was a failure to understand the realities of what is happening in Nicaragua. But we are confident that as we move ahead, these kinds of misunderstanding, these kinds of attitudes will dissipate, and we will be able to work together even more effectively as we move into the future.
You mentioned at some point in our conversation Bluefields, and I know that was where you were born and raised.
That's correct, yes.
Ended up at the University of Hawaii.
That's correct, yeah.
I'm fascinated that you taught sociology for a while, very invested in human rights and freedoms, and your expertise is in sociology. So a fascinating background, a member of the Central Parliament.
Central American Parliament, yes.
Central American Parliament. Tourism, you mentioned that. When we come to Nicaragua, where will you take us? What will we see?
Well, it depends on how many days you have available, because there's so much to see. But I like to think of Nicaragua as a multiple destination in one. You have the Pacific side of the country, you have the volcanoes, you have the lakes, then you have the coffee part of the country, coffee plantation. You have colonial cities, León, Granada. You then have Lake Nicaragua, with the island of Ometepe in the middle with 2 volcanoes, the largest lake in a freshwater, the largest island in a freshwater lake. Then you get onto the Caribbean side of the country where you have the largest tropical rainforest north of Brazil, right on the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua.
And of course, there's Managua.
Well, Managua is the capital with all of its very interesting sights to see. So Nicaragua has just about a little bit of everything for any visitor.
Mr. Ambassador, we're at the end of our time. Thank you so much for our conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
For information about my new book, The Chance of a Lifetime, and online video for all This Is America programs, visit our website, thisisamerica.net. And now you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. This is America is brought to you by the National Education Association, the U.S.-China Education Trust, and the F.Y. Chang Foundation. The League of Arab States, representing 350 million people in 22 member countries. The Rotendaro Family Trust. The Embassy Series, uniting people through musical diplomacy, presenting international artists in diplomatic settings.
And Ventana Productions, television facilities, editing, and distribution services.